Perhaps what his contribution was to South Africa. I'm now joined by somebody who worked with him and knew him well, Dr. Mathews Phosa. Thank you very much indeed, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
All right, so you and a few people would know him quite well, having spent some time with him. We'll chat about some of the work that he did, particularly in those later years. But maybe if you could just start by sharing your thoughts and your reaction when you heard the news.
Well, I knew all along that he was not well. And, you know, death is always a shocking thing, you know. But I want to take this opportunity to send condolences to his family. And also, of course, use the same platform to pay condolences to the family of my comrade Eric Stalin, the man of steel, Mjali, as we knew him. But then Pik Botha, we worked together for many years. But the most closest interaction was at CODESA. And I'm sure we'll have time to talk about that. But sitting in exile and watching the situation unfold in Southern Africa, Pik Botha was at the center of the Brazzaville Accord, where Chester Crocker and many world leaders came to talk about the freedom of Namibia, and also how the Cuban soldiers leave Angola. These issues were interlinked, and they were resolved at that time under his leadership and President Sassou Nguesso of Congo-Brazzaville's leadership. Give him credit, because at that time, more than 120 soldiers of MPLA were released from UNITA's prisons as part of the package. And of course, then he was involved in many other initiatives. When we came to our situation, there were three candidates. It was him, de Klerk, and Duplessis, who were running for the presidency after Pik Botha. But we didn't give him a chance. We thought Duplessis will take it, but de Klerk looked so conservative. But de Klerk took the presidency and went to deal with what was there. And Pik fell in line. But he became one of the live wire of negotiations. You know, he believed in a different South Africa. He was the first apartheid minister to say, release Mandela and ban the ANC, and I will serve under a black president. And of course, that didn't amuse Pik Botha. He was furious with him. If you listen to the party caucus, there was trouble. It was very controversial, but entertainingly controversial. A man who loved life and enjoyed life.
What do you think he saw that others around him couldn't see about what was on the horizon? Was it because he had traveled, that he was worldly, more worldly than many South Africans at the time, I guess?
Well, Pik saw his Damascus early because of his exposure in the United Nations and engagement at the International Court of Justice, where there was a big fight about whether Namibia should be part of South Africa or not. In fact, to say South Africa must let go Namibia. And he went to be one of the counsel defending them. A good constitutional lawyer, an international law lawyer. And I had an opportunity to engage with him at CODESA, as I said. We allocated Working Group 4. Working Group 4 dealt with the homelands and the so-called independent state. We reached an agreement in that working group that let's not fool one another. These homelands are part of South Africa. We want to produce one united South Africa. At the end, he agreed. We differed on a very interesting matter on Walvis Bay. But at that time, South Africa had not given Walvis Bay to SWAPO. And it was a free country, Namibia. I said, Pik, you will give back Walvis Bay to Namibia. He tried to be cheeky about it until he gave in. And there was a second issue about where the boundary of South Africa and Namibia was. They drew the boundary on the end wall of the river, Orange River.
Right.
We said no international law, so the boundary is in the middle of the river. Took a lot of boxing to convince back the boundaries in the middle of the river. But at the end, he gave in. He could negotiate, he could do compromises.
So he was a good negotiator,
yes.
and he had to do it on both sides, his own people, and plus his former enemies who are now becoming fellow comrades in building this new South Africa.
Yes, but at some point, like when Mandela exploded in de Klerk's face at CODESA, which shocked many people, which didn't shock us as it was having been in inner circle. Well, de Klerk didn't respond to Mandela. He asked Pik to go and be the firefighter, to cool down the waters. And so he had a big role to play in helping manage the process of negotiations.
So de Klerk gets the Nobel Peace Prize. How much of that do you think might have been due to someone like Pik Botha?
Well, that's an issue which you don't argue that way. De Klerk was the leader who went to shake his hand with Mandela and produce a settlement in which white people bought and black people bought. So being a follower, like I'm a member of the ANC, with all the contribution I made in these negotiations, I don't think I'm entitled to any piece of Mandela's Nobel Peace Prize. Mandela is entitled to it. That's how it works. You know, he led us well.
All right. So watching social media, a lot of people are almost wanting to make a black and white issue of this in terms of he was either an oppressor or he was a reformer. They don't want to believe that a man could have different shades. Take us through that, and how would you help people understand Pik Botha now?
I belong to an organization called African National Congress. It's a non-racial organization. We don't look at issue in terms of black and white. We say we're a non-racial South Africa. Pik Botha undeniably was a minister of apartheid. Can't deny that. But he saw East Damascus and took a turn for the better and called for the unbanning of the ANC and the release of Mandela and worked for that and was active. He was a minister in Mandela's cabinet. You think Mandela was stupid? He saw wisdom in him and then he used him very effectively.
What will you remember most about him in terms of his qualities?
I think Pik believed at the end, he lost confidence in apartheid. He realized it was becoming dangerous, not only for his people, but for the country. And he saw some Damascus and stretched his hand of friendship as well. I mean, we had a light moment between him and Comrade Thabo Mbeki, our former president, where he will unlock issues which could not be unlocked in a bigger table or in the committees. We'll sit and talk to him, and he liked polishing his whiskey very nicely, and very joyful and enjoying life.
Cigars.
Yeah, and cigars. You know, he was a really ordinary human being at the end of the day.
All right, and then perhaps a final thought on Ntate Ntshali's passing.
Well, it's a loss. You know, we're together in exile. He's one of my leaders who I looked up to. You know, a communist out and out. Very committed to the cause of the working class. And he earned the name Stalin, a man of steel, not for nothing. It's for the contribution he made when we were together in the trenches. And I really once more want to say to his family, his wife and children, our condolences.
What should the people of South Africa remember about him when we talk about legacy and contribution?
Well, he represented the interests of the working class very honestly to the end. You know, he's an out-and-out communist, like I said, unapologetic, and he contributed toward the freedom of this country.
All right. Dr. Mathews Phosa, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to come to the studio and take us through the passing of these two people. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you. Great pleasure, sir.